In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace a rear brake hose on this Ford Excursion. We're doing the driver's side, and keep in mind the hose is actually different from the passenger side, even though the procedure is the same, so you want to make sure you have the correct part. This goes from your brake line to your brake caliper. Let's get started. Use a 21mm socket, remove all 8 lug nuts, and then pull the wheel off. On this old brake hose, I'm going to use some hose crimping pliers to pinch it off. This will restrict the flow of brake fluid as we work, and will make it so we lose less. A little bit further down from here, you'll see the banjo bolt. Use a 14mm socket, break this free, and remove it from the caliper, but have a collection bucket underneath, ready to catch the fluid that's going to come out of the caliper. Take this off. Inspect your banjo bolt when you remove it, making sure it's in good condition. Let this drain. Pull the hose off, and you want to make sure that the copper washer that's on the back side of the hose didn't stick to the caliper. This one actually stuck to the banjo bolt, so I'm going to have to take this off. Usually you can just grab it with some pliers or tap it with a hammer and it'll break free, since we are reusing the bolt. Now set this aside. With this broken free, take it off. Once again, you want to make sure that the bolt is reusable. If it's a little bit rusty out here, that's fine, but you want the threads to be intact, and you definitely want to make sure this area isn't twisted or pulled in any way. Install a brand new copper washer, should be provided with your hose. Now take the hose with this lip facing out, install the banjo bolt, and on the other side, put another copper washer on, basically sandwiching the hose in between the two washers. With a clean area on the caliper, right where it mounts, install it and make sure that this cutout that goes diagonal is touching the caliper, not any other side. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in the right position. Let's tighten this up, make sure it goes on nice and smooth. We'll bottom it out, and then we'll torque it to 26 foot-pounds. That's it right there. All you're looking to do really is just crush those two copper washers so it can create a nice tight seal. Let's flip this hose over and connect it on the other side. On the other end of the hose, use a 16mm wrench to hold the hose while you remove the fitting from the line with an 11mm. I recommend using a flare nut wrench on the fitting side. Looks like that, and it grabs onto a couple extra sides, makes it less likely to round off that fitting. Once you've removed this completely, keep in mind brake fluid will leak from here, since there is brake fluid in the brake line, of course, and you want to have a collection bucket catching all of this. There we go. With this removed, pull this out of here, and let's remove the bolt holding the brake hose onto the differential. Use a 10mm socket and remove this bolt. All right, take that out. Reinstall the new brake hose onto the line so it can stop leaking. Tighten this up, just snug it. Make sure you hold that brake hose so it doesn't twist it. And once you've snugged it enough, you just want to go about 1/8 to 1/4 turn after it bottoms out, just to squish that flare in there. Let's put this back on and re-secure it. Let's re-secure this with our 10mm headed bolt. Snug it up. This doesn't need to be very tight. If you're doing this by hand, about 1/8 of a turn after it bottoms out is plenty. It just needs to hold this bracket on. At this point, since it's mounted, if you wanted to tighten up this fitting, if you haven't already, go ahead and do that. Now open up the bleeder screw on the caliper so we can purge the air out of it, or bleed it. And we're going to have a bucket underneath. This is called a gravity bleed. We'll let gravity pull fluid in, fill the lines, fill the caliper, and get the fluid and the air out of the system through this bleeder screw. Now this should get most, if not all, of the air out. However, you may still need to do a full manual brake bleed at the end of the job, and you'll see how to do this at the end of the video. For now, let's just wait for our gravity bleed until there are no more air bubbles and a steady trickle of clean fluid coming out of the bleeder screw. There's our steady trickle of fluid. I'm going to give this another 5 to 10 seconds to make sure there are no air bubbles stuck in the system. All right, that's plenty. Let's close this off. When you close this, you don't want to tighten it too much, just snug it until it bottoms out, and then we'll clean this area with some brake parts cleaner so that it can be free of any brake fluid. Spray it down. Underneath the hood, on the driver's side of the engine compartment, you'll find your master cylinder reservoir. Wipe it off if it has a lot of debris. You don't want that contaminating the fluid that's in here. Turn the cap counterclockwise and pull it off. If you read carefully, you'll see that it says to only use .3 brake fluid, so make sure that's what you have on hand and make sure you have plenty of it because this is quite a large master cylinder reservoir. Now let's top off the master cylinder up to the max line. Reinstall the cap. Let's get the wheel back on. Start on all 8 lug nuts. We'll bottom them out in a cross pattern so the wheel can seat evenly, and then torque them to 148 foot-pounds, also in a cross pattern. A 148 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Here we go. Double check them if you'd like. Underneath the hood, on the driver's side of the engine compartment, you'll find your master cylinder reservoir. Wipe it off if it has a lot of debris. You don't want that contaminating the fluid that's in here. Turn the cap counterclockwise and pull it off. If you read carefully, you'll see that it says to only use .3 brake fluid, so make sure that's what you have on hand and make sure you have plenty of it because this is quite a large master cylinder reservoir. Next, I want to remove all of the brake fluid that's here, and you can do that by using either a vacuum pump with a little reservoir on it or a fluid transfer pump, whatever you have that's going to get in here with a little hose and remove the fluid. Now fill up the master cylinder with .3 brake fluid all the way to the max line. Reinstall the cap. It's time to start bleeding these calipers, and on this vehicle we want to start at the right rear wheel. That's the passenger side rear. After bleeding that caliper, move over to the left rear. Then you're going to top off the master cylinder, make sure it stays full. Then move over to the right front caliper, bleed that, and the last one will be the left front caliper. At that point, you're going to want to top the master cylinder off again and feel the pedal. If it feels like there's still air in the system, continue bleeding in the same sequence, basically just repeat it until you're satisfied with the brake pedal feel. Now we have an assistant inside the vehicle ready to pump up the brake pedal and hold pressure. After a few pumps, as they hold, I'm going to open up the bleeder screw and fluid, potentially air, will come out of this bleeder screw. I also have this collection receptacle with a hose attached to it so I don't make a mess, but of course a collection bucket would work just fine as well. At this point, I'm going to wait for them to tell me they're ready to hold. All right, they're holding pressure. So open this up with a 10mm wrench. There we go, we got some air. Go ahead and pump again. All right, they're holding. We're going to do this until there are no more air bubbles coming out of the bleeder screw. Okay, go again. Holding. Okay, this was clean. Let's do it one last time. Go ahead and pump. Perfect. You can let go of the brake pedal now. I snug this back up. I'm going to remove my collection hose. Now, if your brake caliper had a cover, of course you'd want to cover this back up. For me, I'm just going to wipe this down, make sure there's no brake fluid. If there is any, you can use some brake parts cleaner and rinse it off. And at this point, you would do the same exact thing to the other side, that is the left rear caliper, and then of course top off the master cylinder after you've bled both of these rears. Now let's top off the master cylinder up to the max line. Reinstall the cap. Now we're at the right front caliper. We have bled both rears and topped off the master cylinder. So let's take the cap or the boot off of this bleeder screw. This one has one, so we're going to save it. And I'm going to put my hose on here. This also takes a 10mm wrench to break free. I'm going to have my assistant pump up the brake pedal now and create pressure. Go ahead and pump. All right, they're holding pressure, so I'm going to open this up. All right, lots of air on this one. Go ahead and pump again. All right, this one was clean at the end. Let's do it one more time. Go ahead and pump. This was good. Let's do it one last time. Go ahead and pump. Perfect. You can let go of the brake pedal now. I got nice clean fluid. I'm going to remove my hose, wipe this off, spray it down if necessary, and cover this back up so that it doesn't get clogged up and rust. At this point, we're going to bleed the left front, do the caliper the exact same way, and then we'll top off the master cylinder one last time. Top off the master cylinder all the way to the max line. Right about there. Perfect. We'll cap this off. At this point, if you are unsatisfied with how the brake pedal feels, you think there's more air, repeat the bleed in the same exact sequence until you are satisfied. And of course, don't forget to keep that master cylinder topped off at all times. Now put the wheels back on. The wheel torque is 148 foot-pounds on all four wheels.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.